That's my waiting to go live dance. Anyway, good evening. I said I was coming on live today, and here I am. It's 6:34 p.m. Arizona time. Don't know where you all are. I think a lot of you are also in Arizona. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about today is why Beautycounter as a company says safer instead of non-toxic when describing our products. There is a lot of confusion out there in terms of people using those words kind of interchangeably, so I just want to come on and let you know, give a little bit of information, and basically explain why you're probably not going to ever hear me say the phrase non-toxic when I'm describing a Beautycounter product. Does that mean that the product is toxic? No. But you'll see exactly what I mean as I try to talk about this. If you are with me over on Instagram, you might have seen me talk about this last Saturday. If you're not, cool. I'm live right now. The video will be saved after it's live, so if you missed it, that's fine. It'll be in the group for all eternity, at least until Facebook dies. Anyway, okay. So, clean slate, no pun intended. We know for a fact, it's an indisputable fact, that the current beauty and personal care product industry is a hot mess. What do I mean? Well, if you look at the standards set by the US in terms of this industry, and what do I mean when I say beauty and personal care industry? So we're looking at makeup, we're looking at skin care, so your moisturizers, your eye creams, that kind of thing. We're looking at soap, we're looking at body wash, shampoo, hair products of all different kinds, and even products for children and babies. Even those are not regulated very well. The industry as a whole is virtually unregulated. And what that means is that the last time a major federal law was passed that actually governs this industry was about 80 years ago, back in 1938. That's a long time ago. And there hasn't been much done since then in terms of regulation. So if you look at the regulation of this industry right now, we have 30 ingredients in the US that are either completely banned or partially banned in personal care products and makeup. Just 30. Now, if you compare that to Canada, Canada's got, I think, a little over 600 on their list of banned ingredients at this time. And if you go to the European Union, they have over 1,400 ingredients banned. That is a huge difference. We're looking at 30 versus 1,400. Now, Beautycounter as a company does go a step further. We take everything on the European Union's list of banned ingredients, 1,400, and then we added some more that are either questionable or definitely not something that we'd want to use, considered to be harmful. So we have a list of 1,500 ingredients plus that will never be used in Beautycounter products. The thing is, so we have that regulation of the 30 ingredients in the US, okay? Companies are not required to test their products for safety. Of course, they're required to test to see if, they irritate the eyes or if they break out the skin. And unfortunately, a lot of that testing is done on animals. I'm not going to go there right now. But they're not required to test for safety of the product. And when I say safety, I'm talking about Does this specific ingredient cause cancer? Does this specific ingredient cause hormone dysregulation? Is this ingredient bioaccumulative, meaning that it builds up in our body because our body can't work enough or work fast enough to get rid of the ingredient, so it stores it in our body? Is this ingredient neurotoxic, meaning is it toxic to the brain? These are the kinds of things that companies are not required to test for. They test for immediate reactions, eye irritation, that kind of thing that I just talked about, but not what these ingredients can do over the long term. And, you know, there's a lot of studies out there proving a lot of these ingredients are harmful to humans. But they're cheap, and they do the job in terms of the consistency of a product and, you know, what the company wants to achieve in the short term, so they use them. What would be a good example? You can probably walk into a store at this time and see a lot of products labeled as paraben-free and phthalate-free, and these are the two big P's, as I like to call them, of the personal care industry. Parabens are in everything out there. I mean, obviously that's an exaggeration, but it's almost everything. If you look at something, you're going to see methyl, paraben, isobutyl, paraben, all that. They will usually have a prefix in front of them. Phthalates are not usually listed on a label, but if you see the word synthetic fragrance, it won't say synthetic. It'll just be fragrance or parfum or perfume. That has a phthalate in it because phthalates cause the fragrance to stick to the skin. These two big P's, as I like to call them, are what is considered an endocrine disrupting chemical. What does that mean? Well, these kinds of chemicals, when they get into our bodies, act like our own hormones. And this is applicable to both males and females. It's not just a female-only problem. And they're called what would be xenoestrogen. So when they are absorbed through our skin into the body, our body thinks that they are hormones, and this can contribute to hormone dysregulation. That's why we see a lot of hormone imbalance. I mean, it's not the only reason why, but it's part of the reason why we see a lot of hormone imbalance in our culture. Stuff like PMS is very common, but it's not normal. And this kind of thing can contribute to that. Girls going into early puberty. It's very common nowadays, but it is not normal. Boys developing breasts because they've been exposed to too much estrogen is very common, but it is not normal. This kind of stuff is what's contributing to that. Parabens have been found multiple times in breast cancer tumors because when there's too much estrogen in a woman's body, that is a precursor to breast cancer. Most people who get breast cancer these days do not even have the genetic predisposition for it. So that is scary, but true. And parabens are one of those toxins that are bioaccumulative. Like I mentioned before, it's stuff that will, when it gets into the body can't excrete it fast enough. So it accumulates in our cells, and toxins inside of us are stored in our fat cells. And that's basically where they live. So this is why, and I already mentioned, this is one of the reasons why Beautycounter created the Never List, which is our list of the 1,500 plus ingredients that will never go into our products. So parabens are on there, of course, phthalates are on there, lots of endocrine disrupting chemicals are on there, stuff like formaldehyde, because we have a lot nowadays. There's a lot of ingredients in personal care products, especially in things like shampoo and in eye cream, where the ingredients interact together and form formaldehyde, which is stuff that, you know, they use to preserve dead bodies, and I believe is a known carcinogen. So that's the kind of things, or those are the kinds of things that are on the never list. And that's one of the things that makes Beautycounter different from the rest of the companies in the US, because we have that list. There are a lot of brands cropping up now that also have standards that are very high. So this is, you know, it's awesome. It's great, but you can't just walk into a drugstore and pick something up off the shelf and know that it's safe, because there are really very little standards in this country. Another thing that makes Beautycounter as a company different is that we actually have an entire team whose job it is to research ingredients. So they look at the studies that have already been done on ingredients, say that we want to use something in a product, because about 80% of the ingredients that we do use are naturally derived ingredients, but because we're a high-performing brand, we do require some safe synthetic ingredients, as we like to call them. So in order to determine that those are safe, we need to research the ingredients very rigorously. So this research team goes in, looks at all the studies, and if there's not enough information for them to believe that the ingredient is safe, we will commission our own studies and find out for ourselves. So that's another thing that sets us apart. Another thing is that each batch of product that is sent out, or produced and then sent out, terminology, each batch is tested the same for safety, because we could say, oh, all of our sourcing is good, send it off, and be done. But as a company, as a large company, we do have to use a manufacturer, several manufacturers, and we can't keep track of that manufacturer possibly contaminating the products. So each batch is tested. For example, in colored cosmetics, so like our blush, eyeshadow, anything that has color, lipstick, those are all tested 3 separate times during production. Each batch is tested 3 separate times for heavy metals. Heavy metals are things like lead, arsenic, that kind of thing. And a lot of actually all natural companies have more of an issue with heavy metal contamination, because when you source from the earth, heavy metals are naturally occurring in the earth. So some of their ingredients might be overly contaminated. And there's not a requirement currently in the US to test for heavy metal contamination in a product. So we're very diligent about heavy metals, because heavy metals can cause a lot of issues. I heard a story recently, and I don't remember if it was heavy metals or if it was some other kind of contaminant, but basically a batch of product was contaminated with something. It could have been heavy metals, but like I said, I don't remember exactly what. But a batch was contaminated. It was pulled, obviously, because we don't want to sell a contaminated product. But then we actually found out where exactly the contaminant came from, down to the very soil of the very plant that the contaminant came from, which is a huge, like, high level of dedication, in my opinion. That's just how dedicated that this company is to making sure that it's as safe as possible. So back to the whole issue of safer versus non-toxic. We do not say that our products are non-toxic, because we can't prove without a shadow of a doubt that that's true. And like I said, we do as much study as we can on these ingredients, but you can't prove 100% that something is totally non-toxic. And here's an example I like to use. So, like I said, about 80% of the ingredients that we use are naturally derived. We use a lot of organic coconut oil. It's a very moisturizing ingredient. It's very useful for dry skin, that kind of thing. However, if you have somebody who's allergic to coconut, it's possible that they could have a reaction to a product that has organic coconut oil in it. Does that mean that organic coconut oil is totally toxic? No. However, if you have a reaction to something, any sort of adverse reaction, that ingredient would be toxic to you. It's the same thing as like food sensitivities. If you're eating something that you're sensitive to and you're getting this chronic kind of condition and you don't know where it's coming from, and it could possibly be from food, and I'm very biased because I am going to be graduating soon as a nutritional therapist. But that is, certain foods can be toxic to people and not to some other person. Certain ingredients in personal care products could be toxic to you because you're allergic to it. So if you're allergic to coconut, you probably shouldn't, I don't want to say you probably shouldn't use a product with coconut in it, because allergies are kind of mostly mediated. Allergies are I'm losing my words. Allergies are mediated by the part of the immune system that deals with protein. Like, protein is what causes an allergy. Your body attacking a specific protein. And coconut oil is all fat. So probably somebody who is allergic to coconut won't have an issue with coconut oil, but it's possible. It's possible. So we can't say without a shadow of a doubt that that's non-toxic to the person. Same kind of thing. We use a lot of hyaluronic acid. This is an ingredient that basically sucks water. Like, we use it in some of the cosmetics and a lot of the moisturizers because it binds water to your skin. Hyaluronic acid is sometimes derived from wheat. And if you have somebody who's very sensitive to gluten, that hyaluronic acid might not do well with them. So somebody maybe with celiac should not use something with hyaluronic acid in it. It's one of those things where if you try it. I do not eat gluten. I'm very sensitive to it. If I eat gluten, my body starts to attack my thyroid. But I do fine with products with hyaluronic acid in them. So it's just a person-by-person basis. But on a very basic level, that's why we do not say non-toxic, because it's just not an accurate term to use when you can't prove without a shadow of a doubt that something is non-toxic to somebody, because you could have a reaction to something. Everybody's different. So we like to use the term safer because that is definitely true. If you have something without 1,500 plus ingredients that are known to be harmful, that is definitely a safer product than what you could grab out of the drugstore. So I hope that's helpful information. I did not think I was going to talk for 20 minutes, but there you go. I tend to be long-winded. So as always, let me know if you have questions about anything. I'm going to end the video, but it will be saved to the group forever. Good night. If you're celebrating Easter tomorrow, happy Easter. I need to just push the button. Bye!